this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360. As we move toward the fourth quarter, there are some dramatic changes pending relevant to the influence of the Federal Reserve on the U.S. economy. Come October, for the first time in many years, the Federal Reserve will not provide stimulus, and the U.S. economy will be operating on a standalone basis. Now, what should we expect as these changes take hold? For perspective, we turn to our very own Jim Russell, U.S. Bank Wealth Management Senior Equity Strategist. Jim is with Business Courier editor Rob Dawmeyer in the studio. Rob and Jim.
Thanks, Peg. Jim, thanks for being here.
Great to be with you.
The stimulus has been around for a long, long time. What has it done for the economy, and did it work? Has it worked as it was anticipated to?
Great question, and different people with reasonable opinions will have different conclusions on that. It's really been in place, Rob, since 2008. As you probably recall, emergency measures were taken as the economy was really falling off a cliff. So the initial facets of the stimulus were really, more stop the bleeding, right? Really, since 2010, it's been to grow the economy and specifically to grow jobs in a low inflationary environment. It has been helpful in this respect. It has been helpful to the interest rate sensitive elements of the economy, housing and auto specifically. Jobs have been slow to emerge. The Federal Reserve cannot make companies hire people. We'd like to see that happen, and that is starting to come about in a more invigorating rate. But there's more work to do, and as Peg mentioned just a minute ago, it does appear that the Fed is likely to wind that down. It appears to be in October.
So if they do wind it down, what do you anticipate happening?
The honest answer to that question is we don't know. The Federal Reserve has been on something called a quantitative easing program. Usually the Fed is active with short-term interest rates. This time they've elected to not only hold short-term interest rates low, but long-term interest rates as well, again called quantitative easing. You can see right there the quantitative easing program is likely to step down. We're in the middle of that right now with an ending of that in October. So once that happens, what will happen? Again, what we think is going to happen is the U.S. economy will be under a situation where it will wobble into the fourth quarter and perhaps find its way into 2015. Not an especially robust growth rate, but something that looks like 2%, maybe 2.5%. And so the training wheels will be taken off in October. And again, we hope that the U.S. economy continues to move forward.
So an unfair question, but I'll ask it anyway. Put your wizard's hat on here.
Sir.
What would have happened if this stimulus wasn't in place? You talked about where the economy was. It's still a fresh memory, even though it was 6 years ago. What would have happened if we wouldn't have had this for the last 6 years?
A lot of smart people like yourself have asked that question. And so we feel at U.S. Bank Wealth Management that the Fed has been a very constructive influence, not only to, again, eliminate the downward spiral of the economy, but to also stabilize it and perhaps even help move things forward a bit. What you see here in this picture is the entire amount of money that has been spent over the 2008 through current time frame. Almost $4 trillion. So they have really injected a meaningful amount of money into the economy in hopes of not only increasing employment, but also increasing the growth rate. Again, a little bit of an open question there. So there are limits to what they can do. There are limits to what monetary stimulus can do, but they certainly played, we think, a very constructive role in stabilizing the economy relative to other countries, relative to Europe, other countries out there, and perhaps lifting the growth rate. Again, a slow growth rate has come out of the other end of that. We're hopeful that picks up momentum over the second half of this year and into 2015.
Well, this is really, really important information. I have a sneaking suspicion we'll be talking about it again soon.
I think so.
All right, thanks a lot.